button, but yeah.
We're going to get through this. I tell
Why
you.
is it over here?
Amazing. All right. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to LueWish presents Bare Essentials for Women Only. Guys, ladies, I'm so excited about tonight. I'm excited about what God has done. This has been a year in the making, over a year. And here we are. God has done some amazing things. Hello, my name is Hilda Gradnigo, and I'm the founder and executive director of LueWish, a 501c organization that grants wishes to women who are experiencing life-altering issues due to cancer, domestic violence, and heart disease. We seek to inspire women to live, to love, and to laugh out loud. And I want to tell you, Bare Essentials is phenomenal. It is one of the things that God has given us, a place for women to come and be able to bear their pain, their bruises, their rejection, those things that are coming to limit them and hinder them. And I'm so thankful. And so I like to say the purpose of Bare Essentials. I remember a story when my sister was very young, Lavinia Marcel Lewis, who is the face and also the honoree of this organization. In memory of this organization, I remember when she was a little girl and we were all in the family room, and my sister was being her normal boisterous self, and she was running around asking questions, stumbling up everybody, and just being Lulu. And my dad said, let's play a game. And he said, we're going to play the quiet game. And he says, I want to see who can be the quietest for the longest. Well, I don't think it was 60 seconds. And my sister jumped up and said, I don't like this game. So she began to return back to asking questions, being boisterous, being loud, just being her normal self. And so, ladies, that's why we're here tonight, because I believe this is the season where God is calling us to be the women that He has made us to be. See, there are cultures and systems out there that are trying to silence you and trying to hold you back from the power of the voice that has been given to you by God Himself. And so tonight we're going to reclaim the power of our voice, and we're going to take it by force through healing, through wholeness, and through truth, because the scripture says it's the truth that sets us free. And I'm so excited that our first speaker is Dr. Alana Curry. Dr. Curry is a psychiatrist who has been practicing for over 15 years. She lives right here in Houston, and you've read her bio. I'm not going to go into that. You can read that on your own, but I just want to tell you that I have come to know her as a phenomenal Black woman who has a lot of insight on what it means to be able to use your natural body, this body that God made, to bring about healing. And she's going to share some of those things with us tonight. Would you help me welcome Dr. Alana Curry?
Hello. Thank you so much. This is exciting. Thank you for having me. And what a beautiful time to come together and be able to discuss something that is so important and something that we really can all share in. My name is Dr. Alana, trauma psychiatrist. I come to you just wanting to share with you as an educator why it is so important in this day and age to really begin to process your traumas. I think all of us can, if we do some searching, we can see places where we have experienced traumas that we never probably even thought of as traumatic. You know, things that were just part of life, that natural disasters and unnatural disasters at this point. We have accidents, we have things that happen to our body, we have times where our body betrays us. It's traumatic to experience cancer. It's traumatic to experience domestic violence. It's traumatic to experience substance abuse or homelessness. It's traumatic to experience the world in the body of a Black person in America. It's traumatic to experience life as a woman because there's going to be so many places where you've been told that you can't do something, or that you're too much of this, or you're not enough of that. Come on now, hold on. I didn't know I was going to be preaching to myself, but that's okay. I'm going to talk to myself. I want to share with you the beautiful thing about trauma is that trauma programs your brain to think of things in a very specific way. There is a predictable impact of traumatic experiences on your brain, body, and behavior. So one of the things that I have realized is that there's too many people who are traumatized on this globe, and there's not that many people who are trained and informed. So I believe that we need to be able to teach ourselves, and we need to understand the parts of our brain that affect the way that we think about things. So I started an online academy called the Dr. Alana Trauma Recovery Institute. That's abbreviated as the TRI, DA-TRI. And the reason that I started the Institute was because I wanted to give people a space to be able to learn about the brain. Yes, your brain is controlling the things that you do and experience in your body. So what more important thing can there be than for you to explore some of the parts of your brain? And I tell people about 6 primitive brain systems that are important to understand, because our traumatic experiences cause us to interpret the world in a primitive way. They cause us to interpret the world in a painful way, in a fearful way, that often our own beliefs are the one thing that's holding us back from being able to be our best selves. So let's take a look at a little bit of Master Your Amygdala. It's about a 6-minute clip. This is the first chapter that you can learn a little bit about one of the parts of your brain that controls your emotions. Let's take a look. Is it going to play? If it doesn't play, I'll just explain it, but it's cuter on my video. Get your questions ready. That's right. And how many of you all ever heard of your amygdala before? If you've heard of it, put in the comments what you think it does. Amygdala. Everybody has one. Never heard of it. Okay. Keep living. I'm about to tell you what your amygdala is doing, because it plays a huge role. That's right, your emotion center. So your amygdala is this teeny, tiny bean-shaped part of your brain. It's got a little tail on it, curves up, and there's 2 of them. Oh, let's see. Oh, we've gone into the vortex. We in the matrix. Well, I'll keep talking about the amygdala while they're pulling that up. So your amygdala is the part of your brain that creates your emotions. And so your amygdala, first of all, everyone has one. Therefore, your emotions, they're not created in your heart. They're actually created in your brain. So one of the common myths that we say is, I feel it in my heart. And I'm like, your brain will transmit sensations into your heart, and your heart does give you communication, but your amygdala is creating your emotions. And let's see if we can get the video to play. But the important part of that to understand is that your amygdala creates powerful urges that move you one place or the other. Your amygdala never shuts off. Even when you're asleep, your amygdala is going, and it's creating emotions not based on objective reality. It creates those emotions based on what you are telling yourself about what you are experiencing. Let me say that again, because that's really important. I'm gonna come back to that. Your amygdala is telling you, your amygdala is creating what you feel, every emotion that you feel, based solely on what you tell yourself about what is happening in that moment. Now, I don't know about you, but one of the things that, even as a psychiatrist, I had a tendency to do was say, that person's making me mad. You startled me, or they make me so happy, right? Well, just in that language, there is falseness, because the reality is that no one creates your emotions but you. You have to understand yourself as an animal, human, and a spirit. You are a three-part creature. Anatomically, you are animal, meaning you have biology. Humans are actually in the animal. We're considered mammals. We have common features to many animals, but we are the highest technology, the highest animal. We've evolved to the point of knowing ourselves as human beings, but we don't just have a physical body, we have a spiritual body. We have a invisible self. We have thoughts, feelings, and we make choices. I joke around sometimes because a lot of times people would say, they'd be telling me the story about what's happening in their life. And they say, my husband was doing this, my girlfriend was doing that, my kids they're doing this. I said, well, what were you doing while they were doing that? What y'all think they say? Put it in the comments. What were you doing when they were doing all that? Most people are like, nothing, nothing, nothing. Are you sure? Are you positive? Because there's actually no such thing as doing nothing. Describe doing nothing for me. Even if you're sitting still and you're not moving, you're still doing something. So I want you to understand that you don't disappear when those emotions and those powerful urges that amygdala creates go off, and they affect the way that you think, and they affect the words that you say and how you choose to deliver your words, and they affect the way that you choose your behaviors. So you have to understand these powerful but silently invisible urges that we have, which unfortunately have not been taught to us because we don't have an educational system that has really taken the time to give us good education about our physical self. We're still fighting about what to tell us in sex ed. And we definitely have not explored our emotions and how powerful those emotions are to drive us. So the way that relates to trauma is that you can learn how to control those powerful emotions. You can learn how to unravel those mental bonds that your traumas have created in your life and that are holding you back from doing whatever powerful thing is in your capacity. So you have to learn how to activate this prefrontal cortex. Do this. Do, 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 do. Okay, it's on. This part of your brain, right behind your forehead, boom. You can call it your third eye. You can call it whatever you want. It's not your pineal gland, but this is your best brain. It's your most evolved self. It's the part of you that can kick in to learn how to recognize, instead of letting that amygdala, that powerful animal self, overpower the way you think, really using your prefrontal cortex to be descriptive, objective, non-judgmental, and effective. Be done with trauma thinking. Push yourself to push past the red, the negative, the pain thinking, and empowering that and the fears, and really force yourself to begin to look at things with more effectiveness so that you can learn how to turn your traumas into triumphs, so that we can go from just surviving, because I think we've done enough surviving. We've had a whole bunch of years of a bunch of surviving. So I think we're ready to go from survival to thrive all. So thank you so much for letting me come into this bare essentials and really boil down to the root cause of these struggles that we have and really deliver for you a new way of thinking about yourself. Feel free to join me for more information at Dr. Alana Trauma Recovery Institute. That's DA-TRI.org, where you can sign up for $33 a month. That is cheaper than your average copay. And what you get there, no, you cannot see me as a patient. You can see me as a student. You can learn from me, and we can learn from each other, and we can get better together. You'll have an opportunity to join in monthly skills coaching calls and opportunities galore to learn more about yourself. Thank you so much, Hilda, for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Alana. Well, that was power packed. So, ladies, if you have any questions for Dr. Alana, go ahead and put them in the chat session, and we're going to start dialoguing with her. But I want to ask a question. Start off, Dr. Alana, how do you recognize trauma in your life? How does a person know that they've been traumatized?
Well, we can wipe out the mystery because the answer is yes. So anytime when you have had coronavirus, which has come in and yanked the rug out from everybody, that in itself is traumatic. So we can start with it. One of the things that is healing is to recognize that when everybody has something, what's the stigma in having it too? Everybody has trauma. So yes, you have trauma. Now, what other traumas do you have? Because we accumulate them throughout life. I don't know if you've ever heard of a book of The Body Keeps Score, but when you're having these moments, and I define trauma as any event that is internally painful enough that it changes the way you think about yourself, other people, and the world. And so for some people, they can have a car accident and they can get back in the car and they're driving again the next day and they feel fine. But another person can have a car accident and then not be able to drive again for throughout their life. And that changes the course of what they decide to do because they've had that experience that has now programmed them and the way that they think. So trauma really is about programming because each time we have these little hits, pow, but that hit can be, you sure gained some weight. And if that's something that's painful for you, right? So that person just slapped you. And we have been raised in a society or an environment, I venture to say, most of us, because we have a culture that's still steeped in not recognizing invisible injury, we don't pay attention to the damage that words do. So we throw them around constantly. And that really is an invisible injury. I say invalidation is death by 1,000 cuts. Every time I hear people say racism doesn't exist, and I know that I experience racism on a regular basis and can turn my television on and give you multiple examples, that is a slap because it is negating my reality, and that's a spiritual injury. It's an invisible injury that does real damage to the way that people experience themselves. And then folks have to do the work to try to be free of that mess, trying to rip off all of the negative messages that we get. I still laugh about even, and I can't even say I laugh about it. It's funny now to me, but it used to be painful when I thought about how as a child, because all of the Barbies and the toys that I wanted were white, I didn't like this brown skin. And this brown skin is dope. What? Okay. Melanin, being a Black woman, dope. Like all of the things that we've been through and all of the traumas that we've experienced allows me to be who I am today. And I wouldn't be that if it weren't for the pathway of being a Black woman. So there's power in embracing who you are and what you've been through and using those traumas to say, hey, this is what I've been through. And that just made me more dope. Let me write this book so I can have my bestseller, and we all have holy trauma stories. We all have so many things that have happened to us that are operating. But if we're not careful, our trauma cycles will continue to pull our attention to those painful things. And we keep going down that path over and over again because we haven't learned to break that cycle. And that's what I want to give to your listeners is a roadmap and an opportunity that when you understand these things, you know how to hit the switches. So you hit them.
So it's all about wow, this is really good. Number one is good because I'll just be honest, as Black women, we don't talk about this kind of stuff. You know,
Mhm,
this kind of stuff is kind of like taboo. We almost relate it to mental illness. Like,
mhm.
yeah, trauma leads to mental illness or mental instability, right? And so nobody wants to think themselves crazy. So
Well, how mentally stable are we all feeling right now? Like,
exactly, exactly. So, as I like to say, unless you are living somewhere else beside the world that we're living in right now, we've all experienced trauma and we all have been affected mentally by it. Some of us on different levels. And so, I help us understand how important our voice is to breaking that, coming out of that, being free of that.
sure. Well, one thing you have to remember is that you have been programmed by your life experiences. The things that were said to you as a child, the things that were said to you as a teenager, a young adult, the things that are communicated to you in your relationships and your friendships, in your workplace, those things and all the negative messages that you've gotten, those messages bounce around in your head. And you know where else they come out? They come out of your mouth. And when they come out of your mouth, they come
What?
around and they hit your own ears. Okay. And they powerfully fly across space and they land in the ears of the other people around you. And they create things inside of them just like it creates things inside of you because we are creators. Every single one of us are powerful.
Wait. Come on, wait. That right there. I'm gonna do a Jada. That right there. Say that one more time. We are all what?
We are all creators.
Wow.
We are all creators. Every single one of us are superpowers. We're superhumans. We're not just human, but we've been taught to think so primitively about ourselves that we don't understand that all of our thoughts create things inside of us and they create things outside of us as well. And our words are powerful. When they come out of us, they float across space and they do stuff. So all of us are part of this matrix that we are operating in, but we only perceive it through our own bubble of perception. Our brain is only calculating through our version. So we all live in a state of semi delusion,
Mm,
thinking that our version of reality is the reality.
come
And
on,
truth,
wait. You gotta repeat that. You didn't. Some they you said that too fast, and people were trying to write that down. Come on, say that
okay,
one more time.
okay. I'm going to say it one more time. We all experience reality through our own teeny tiny bubble of perception that our brain creates as we get information through our bodies, and it transmits powerful sensations and powerful things inside of our body. And we treat our feelings as if they are fact. All of us operate in that bubble when our biology is driving the bus. That's what creators do. But we're on primitive mode because we didn't know that we even had all of these powerful mechanisms in our brain drawing our attention to trauma, causing powerful amygdala driven reactions in our body that affect our choices and the way that we deliver information. So that's the reason I call us creators, because you have to understand the powerful being that you are, because your words matter not only to other people, but they matter to you and your own programming. So you have to overwrite that negative programming and you have to be intentional about it. You have to be life affirming to yourself, because we know that the word is power. We've already said life and death in the power of the tongue. So why do we throw our words so casually when they're so powerful? It's important to think about, what do you say to yourself, because you actually create your own emotions.
You know, I'm doing this women's Bible study on Sundays, and we're doing the Tony Evans Watch Your Mouth
Mm,
study. And this, I tell you, so I just love God. Precept upon precept, word upon word. He is just that kind of God. He will make sure you get it until you get it until you get it. And
that's
so
right.
we are learning that this muscle, the strongest muscle on our body, is very powerful, right? How we have to watch how we use this muscle, because God intended it to be used the way he uses his muscle, right? Like you said, every time he spoke, things happened. And so we
Yeah.
speak and we forget we are creators. And so we are creating things. My best friend says sometimes some of us don't realize that we are living lives we prayed for. So in that idle prayer that we were doing, where we were just saying something, that we're
Yeah.
actually living those lives, because we are not watching what we say and understanding the power our words have. Ladies, come
Yeah.
on. Any questions out there? I know y'all out there writing notes and really want to, but anybody have a question for Dr. Alana? All you need to do is right there on the screen is grab the mic, and that'll pull you on, and we'll give you permission to join the conversation. If you have a question for Dr. Alana, you have a little button that says grab the mic, and it'll allow you to come on and talk with us and ask a question. Okay, now, Dr. Alana, why? I know some women tell me, I don't want to be the first one. I don't want to be the first one. That's why you're not going to get your question answered. So come on. I know y'all have questions out there, but our voice, this natural thing that we have, uh,
Hmm.
I even think about in the garden. Um, when you look at the relationship that God had with Adam on the onset, it was about them talking to one another.
Hmm.
Doing, but just talking to one another. And so,
Hmm.
in this electronic age that we have, and IT age and technology age we have, we're doing less talking and more texting and sending emails and things like that. But I believe that that is counterintuitive to what God planned, because
Hmm.
he planned and ordained us to use our mouths, not to send a text, not to
Hmm.
send an email, not to send somebody something in the cloud, but to open our mouths and
Hmm.
speak. Um, and so I, this trauma thing, I never put in perspective that it had so much to do with the power of our voice. But I tell you what, we have a question coming, and I want to be able to ask that question to you. But tell the women a little bit more about how they can get in touch with you, because I know you're going to have some people call you after this question, because I think some
Sure.
knew that trauma was, first of all, that simple. We think of trauma, the homeless person, or the person that's in the psych ward, or the person that has the straight jacket on, and that's not necessarily true, um,
Right.
especially
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, it's for them over there. And of course that's how most of us like to feel. We like to say that the other people are the ones that have the problem. But I think that that's the beautiful thing about this era, is that when you talk about traumas and you air them out, it's healing. And that's where we need to go, with really acknowledging painful truths and doing the work to understand our traumas. And so when it comes to someone asked a question about what's the difference between trauma and experiencing PTSD. And I think that's a great question, because psychological trauma is the event, it's the circumstance. So psychological trauma is what circumstance happens to you. PTSD is a syndrome that is a result of traumas that your brain takes a snapshot, and your brain takes a snapshot that it might try to pile in the closet and stuff away, but when you're not actively trying to not think about it, it's popping back into your mind. It's sort of like, when you tell yourself, don't think about pink elephants, what's the first thing you think about? Pink elephants. So the brain does a good job of trying to protect us by blocking those things out, but it comes through in flashbacks, and your brain's biology is programmed so strongly to pay attention to those traumas that it will recreate and pull your mind back to it and recreate those experiences inside of your physical body as well. So again, even PTSD is about understanding these brain systems and learning to control them, learning to talk to them, learning to recognize, where is this my perception of reality that is making me think that person over there is a danger and causing me to have a panic attack in the middle of Target and leave my basket? Or is it am I able to peel back my interpretation of this and break it down descriptively, objectively, non-judgmentally, and effectively, with a skill set where my brain my prefrontal cortex can overpower that powerful primitive input from the amygdala, the fight or flight response, the adrenaline, the cortisol that makes you just ready to go.
Exactly.
But, yeah, that's the difference.
So we have two questions. What does Dr. Alana mean by primitive?
Okay. And primitive is the brain systems that human beings are processing information through. And those brain systems have been around for a long time. We have evolved as a creature, and our technology has done this, but the human body has been pretty much the same for a few thousand years. And now we are trying to do so much more with our brain and our body every day. But those brain systems are still primed to keep us safe and protect us. So they highly emphasize painful things and traumatic things, which means that 7 billion creators are tuned into the most negative things, the most painful experiences, and not only tuned into them, but trying to get ahead of them by watching for them and expecting them to come from other people. And what do you get when you expect pain, when you expect trauma, when you expect someone to hurt you? You try to get ahead of it by doing it first or by protecting yourself. But just in those behaviors, look at the world that we've created. We have a mess. We have an emotional mess. Everyone, you're not living on earth if you're not looking at it like, ooh, we're in trouble. Something's wrong.
So we have two more questions, and then we're going to, and ladies, we're going to have time at the end after the second speaker. We're going to bring both speakers back. So hold on to your questions. Keep writing your questions. I have a team here who's capturing all the questions. Don't stop putting your questions in. So what is most misunderstood about empathy?
I think most people think empathy is being emotionally connected to a person or having a level of emotional awareness of the events going on. And that is a layer of empathy, but empathy is actually on a dial. Empathy can be thought of as being emotionally aware and connected. But if we really turn up our empathy dial, we can think of it as, I will step into your shoes. I'll switch places with you. And I'm not going to think about it how I think about it. That would be like me taking my size 7.5 and going over to somebody else's shoes and sticking them in there and going, oh, well, you just need smaller shoes. You're a size 9. Just get smaller shoes. A lot of times we speak from our own space and our own version, and we're telling other people how we think that they should feel or respond to things. And empathy is a superpower. Empathy is making the choice to experience a thing through that other person's life, through their mind, through their experiences. So that's being willing to hear yourself through their ears, not just your own. That's being willing to see yourself through their eyes.
All right. What tips do you have for us? Last question. What
Mhm.
tips do you have for us? That was the question.
Okay. So the tips that I have are self-care and really operating with love. And I say that empathy is love in action. And I give this acronym to help people remember. The L is listen and look with suspended judgment, meaning we're going to put our own version to the side just for a minute. O, observe the emotions in yourself and the other person. How are you feeling? How are they feeling? Actually put words to that so you can help develop your emotional vocabulary and the understanding of how you and other people are feeling. Then V, validate the differing perspectives. You don't have to agree with another person to be able to say, I guess I can see how you see it that way from your perspective. I may not have thought that that's what I was doing, but sometimes, often, our intent doesn't actually match our impact when things land on the other side. So, validating the perspective of other parties involved is really important to making sure everyone feels heard. And then E, express yourself skillfully, creator, meaning choose to be effective with your words, choose to be aware of how powerful they are to float across space and cause invisible spiritual damage in the other creators that you're interacting with. So please, please, please take some time and search yourself and learn to stay in control of your emotions. And I'll help you do that through the Dr. Lana Trauma Recovery Institute. Sign up for $33 a month, and I'll help you walk you through the journey of trauma recovery.
Dr. Alana, I'm so glad you could be with us. And I hope you stick around because at the end, I'm going to bring everybody back for just a few more questions. But, ladies, we have another speaker that I'm excited about tonight. But before we go into our speaker, for many of you, this is your first experience with LueWish. And I want to thank you again so much for joining our first women's event, Bare Essentials for Women Only. I want to thank you because it's a Friday night and many of you are married. And so I know that this is normally date night. So I want you to thank your husbands for me for allowing you to come and join the women tonight. But I always said sometimes it's better for people to see what you do, to better understand what you do. And so tonight I have Karonda Cox, who's going to tell you a little bit about what we do. So, Karonda, thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm Karonda, and I'm so glad to have this opportunity to share the impact LueWish has had on my life. In order to do that, I think I need to tell you a little bit about what was going on in my life when LueWish found me. In 2015,
Thank you, Karonda, for sharing your experience with LueWish. I want you to know that as the founder and executive director, I am honored that God would birth this vision through me. I'd like to say my sister was not the only one who had breast cancer, nor was she the only one who passed away due to breast cancer. And so I do not take this call lightly. And I thank God for supporters like you. I thank God for people who are praying for us and who are constantly helping and taking this journey alongside us to ensure that no woman has to worry about making a decision between paying rent and paying for health insurance, paying a car note or paying for health insurance, or being able to go to the doctor. We have helped several women, numerous women, in the areas of granting wishes. We have just came into partnership with MD Anderson Social Services Department, and they have already begun to submit wishes to us. I thank God for this opportunity, but I know that we need help, and we can't do this alone. And so thank you for supporting events like this, Bare Essentials for Women, because it is through your support that we're able to be a blessing and an inspiration to women to live, to love, and laugh out loud. Now, I'm so excited to bring on our next speaker, Denise Malloy. And again, you see her bio. Denise is Global Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion for Johnson Controls. She has been in the stock market. She has worked for Enron. She has held high executive positions, but I know her as a humble woman. I tell you, I met Denise back at a career or job that I used to work. And have you ever been somewhere and you just asking God to get you out, and he sends you a ram in the bush? Well, that's what happened with me. He sent a ram in the bush, and that ram was Denise Malloy, who has become a big sister, a prayer partner, a supporter, a friend. And I am just thankful that she is joining us this evening. Will you help me welcome Denise Malloy? Technical difficulties, so I know they were helping her get on, and so let's see. Can you come out of that, and then go back to the agenda and click on her session? I think that's probably where she is.